The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
Hello, I'm Ray Lemura. Welcome to this edition of Cable Reports. Our guest today is Secretary of the Commonwealth, Levar Stoney. Welcome, Mr. Secretary.
How you doing, Ray?
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right. One of the big jobs and responsibilities of your position is gubernatorial appointments.
Oh.
I'd like to talk with you about that because there are so many appointments that fall under your responsibilities, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I would say it's one of the more notable responsibilities for the Secretary of the Commonwealth, and that is the governor's ability to appoint nearly 4,000 individuals to boards and commissions while he is in office. It is you learn a lot about state government when you are in this role as Secretary of the Commonwealth, because the office kind of has its hands on everything. Either it's in the Commerce and Trade Secretariat or if it's in the Agriculture Secretariat. We are responsible for finding the best, brightest, most talented individuals to serve the Commonwealth, and it can be a really daunting challenge because it's about 1,000 appointments every year, but it gives you an opportunity to work with so many different people, and it is definitely as I like to say, the governor likes to point out that Levar is responsible for 4,000 appointments. It can ruin a dinner party, I tell you that. It really can.
Now, the Blue Book is involved under your purview. Talk a little bit about the Blue Book and the appointments here.
Yeah, well, the Blue Book goes back a long ways, and it's basically the record, the physical record of all the appointments the governor will make each and every year. This year, we're working on our Blue Book right now. The thing is, though, it's not necessarily an actual book, a bound book any longer. We don't produce that bound book any longer. We're cutting back on the costs, and now you can find that book online. And so that's another daunting task, because you have to go back at all the appointments and pictures and names and biographies. But it's a good record to have for any governor and any secretary, especially, and it's a good resource, I think, for any person looking to actually apply for a board or commission, because they can now look back and see the type of individual who's held this role long ago. So you can go back to the days of Mark Warner, the days of Jim Gilmore, the days of Doug Wilder, and find out who are the type of people who actually hold these sort of roles. Great.
Now, there are different categories and different appointments to different boards. Why don't we talk a little bit about, so you've got advisory positions, you've got policy, you've got supervisory. So let's talk a little bit about advisory type boards.
There are advisory boards where they're not necessarily there to set the policy and tone, but just advise over a particular agency. There are rulemaking and policy-making boards as well, particularly at the Board of Health. The governor made some significant appointments there last year. They will make policy for all sorts of activities in terms of health. So it could be whether or not it's veterinarians or it's for or how we handle women's health clinics. They'll make policy for that. The Board of Visitors is another governing board right there for different colleges and universities. They'll make policies for particular higher education institutions. And so it ranges. The code calls for people with certain expertise to serve on certain boards, but many of the boards feature a citizen position where we just want any Susie Q or John Doe to actually join and provide their voice to the process. And regular day, everyday individuals are the type of folks we're looking for on to serve a lot of these boards. You don't have to have a specific expertise. Having that regular everyday perspective goes a long way.
Okay. But on policy, you want some folks with a little more expertise to help give that counsel.
That's correct. Many of the boards call for people with financial background, people with a healthcare background. It matters what board you actually apply for, and the code will stipulate what we need to find in that individual. For instance, I used the Board of Health recently. We're looking for people who've served as veterinarians or who have a climate or a science background as well, because the Board of Health ranges beyond just women's health, and it's your drinking water. It's everything.
What's the most interesting board you've come across so far?
There are a lot of interesting boards. I always tell folks, if you're ever interested in the chicken board, the beef board, the wheat board, the egg board, or the milk commission, we got a board for you. But the most interesting board, though, I'd have to say, gosh, I think I can barely pronounce it. The polysomnographic board. Like I first said, what is that? Like but we're looking for those types, or the midwifery board. You didn't know that, did we? We had a midwifery board.
Did not know.
That actually as an advisory board for midwives. I mean, it's I've learned a lot in the last 365 days, and there's a board for everyone.
Right. And there's also supervisory boards as well.
Yes.
And now tell us a little about the supervisory.
So a lot of our boards meet 4 times a year.
Okay.
Sometimes less than that. Supervisory boards do meet, about 2 times a year sometimes, and lead the direction of each and every agent, or each board usually matches up with an agency. And not every board is a policy making or an advisory making. A supervisory board helps us with that front. And I'm trying to think of a good example. Like the accounting board, the Board of Accounting, that's a good supervisory board for you right there.
Sure. Now, you said you're looking to fill a lot of slots.
Oh, yes.
How can someone apply, or do they have to be nominated for a board?
So there's multiple ways you can do this. A lot of the boards lapse every June 30th of every year. And so we'll have 1,000 or nearly 1,000 that will actually expire. Their terms will expire on June 30th. It is our hope that we can get folks in the queue through our application that's online, and that's at commonwealth.virginia.gov, and a person can apply for a board. We ask that you apply for 3 boards, and you may not get your 3 boards, but we will keep you in the process, and hopefully our team will reach out to you and ask if whether or not you would be willing to serve on another board. Also, individuals like yourself can actually nominate people for boards and commissions. We receive a ton of nominations and a ton of applications every day. There doesn't go by a day that I actually don't review a resume. And I think that's a good thing, that folks are really interested in serving. You don't have to be an elected official to serve. You can actually serve on one of these boards and commissions and actually make some impact in everyday Virginians' lives.
Great. Now, is there any type of public scrutiny or press scrutiny if you're on a board?
Well, boards are, it's similar to holding public office, but you don't have to run for this. You're appointed by the governor. They're open to the public. They'll be on the Commonwealth calendar every week. Press will be in the meetings. It could be a board that could have a lot of scrutiny. Some boards, no scrutiny at all. As I said, the midwifery board, you may not see any scrutiny. But if you're on a board of visitor and you're responsible for actually tuition costs and different policies at a particular university, or if you are the Board of Medicine or the Board of Nursing, there's some issues that there are a lot of debate about.
Right.
And that's what we want, though. I mean, it's a free and open process. It's a part of democracy.
Right. So just if you're going to apply, just keep those kind of things in mind.
Well, yeah, keep those things in mind, but also we want folks to participate as well.
Right.
And so if you're interested in a board and you want to know what the time what the time commitment is, I would say, usually it's on a normal year, four times a year for many boards. A board of visitors 4 times a year. However, if you're the Board of Nursing and the Board of Medicine, there's a likelihood that you will be coming every 6 weeks to Richmond. Some of the boards like to move it around and go to different parts of the state, but a lot of the boards meet right here in Richmond, so that means a commitment in travel, but we would reimburse your travel if you were to come a long ways away. So those friends of ours out in Southwest or in Southside Virginia, we need that representation as well.
Right. Another really important issue that your office works on is the restoration of rights.
Oh, yes.
So let's spend a little time talking about that.
Well, I've worked with the governor since 2010, and I remember his 2009 campaign. We like to say that's when the governor got the silver medal in the Democratic primary.
First loser.
That's right. But that's when he ran in 2009, he spoke passionately about the restoration of one's civil rights, civil and voting rights. And in his campaign in 2013, he also spoke very passionately about that. We feel as if in order we're going to build a new Virginia economy, we can't do without new Virginia values. And I think a great value that the governor possesses is the value of forgiveness and redemption. And we've put that into action recently. This year, well, first of all, I want to tip my hat to Governor Bob McDonnell. He streamlined the process and took it to a whole nother level and restored the rights of 8,100 individuals, of former offenders. The governor, we did a 90-day review. The governor then created a policy that would, number one, more define what the offenses are. So now a person can come to our website, they've served their time, paid their dues to society, and see the list of nonviolent offenses, and also now a list of violent offenses. That's number one. Number two, we reduced the wait time for those who are more serious offenders. So if you served your time, paid your dues to society, you would have to wait 5 years. We've reduced that to 3 years in order to get your rights restored. Number three, we moved all drug offenses from the violent category to the nonviolent category. So for our criteria on restoring one's rights, we will never consider a drug offense as a violent offense. Number four, which I think is very significant, for more serious offenders, we've reduced the application from 13 pages to 1 page. So no longer a person has a barrier of 13 pages of writing a letter to the governor and getting recommendations from individuals. Now it's just 1 page with all your information, and you can get into our system and we can get your rights back as soon as we can. A great stat, since the governor's been in office, we've restored the rights of nearly 5,600 former offenders.
Wow.
Of that, about 70% have registered to vote. And I think that's a step in the right direction of people who actually want to return to society and be a contributing member to society. And it's an act of forgiveness, and we believe people should have second chances.
Sure. That's great. It's very powerful. How does the process work? So someone has an issue, they complete the 1-page application now.
Yep.
Where does it go from there?
Well, a person will petition the governor for their rights to be restored. And as I said, one of those categories, nonviolent, let's take a nonviolent, for instance, a person will fill out the quick contact form. It will be processed in our office. We will do our due diligence in following up on their record or whatnot with the Department of Corrections and the Virginia State Police. We appreciate their help. And then after that, we will do a quick verification, and then hopefully in a matter of months you'll receive a grant order in the mail from the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office granting one's rights back to vote, hold public office, run for public office, and be a notary public.
Okay, great. Now, what if it was a violent issue?
Well, we would make sure that they're, number one, eligible, so they've actually served the 3 years, they've waited the 3 years after their conviction. Additional to what we do with nonviolent felons, you also have to ensure that we have to also ensure that the person has paid their court dues and their court fees as well. So we'll do that as well, and then we'll do very much of due diligence, and then we'll get you in the system and get your rights restored. So the processes don't really actually change too much.
Okay.
It's just a wait period for the more violent offenders or more serious offenders.
Now, what if you had a minor in the situation, nonviolent minor? I mean, how does that stay on their record? What happens in that kind of situation?
In Virginia, your record is never expunged. I think that's something we probably need to work on in the future. So if you were to receive your rights restored, it will still be on your record, but I think it's an opportunity for a person to present that grant order to an employer and possibly get themselves a job or just do well by their family as well. But I will also say that this is a form of clemency, and there's other forms of clemency. The governor also has pardon powers as well. So if a person wanted a simple pardon, which is an official act of forgiveness, the governor can also issue one of those, and we're doing more and more of those as well, which will help people with their employment opportunities.
Wow, that's great. Now, I know guns have been part of this discussion as well along here, so maybe you can talk a little bit about how that factors into the equation as well.
And I know Senator Rosalind Dance from Petersburg has, she championed this year, and Yvonne Miller, the late Yvonne Miller, the senator from Norfolk, also championed this. Is the automatic restoration of rights and putting that in the Constitution. And it got out of the Senate this year. It met its death in the House, but I do believe there are many members of the General Assembly who are, I think, coming on board on how we go about restoring people's rights. And I I think that one day we're going to actually get to a point where this is an automatic process, and I like to say that the folks who work in my office, one day I'd like to put them out of a job, and that because this should be an automatic process that doesn't involve the governor's office any longer.
Sure.
And so the gun rights issue has been on the table. As I said earlier, all we do is restore the right to vote, hold public office, serve in public office, and be a notary public. In order to get your gun rights back, though, you have to petition the clerk's of court office in your locality. The courts are more in charge of restoring your gun right. But if you have to get your rights restored first to get your gun rights restored. So it's a two-step process for a person who wants to be a gun owner again.
Right. So you talk about your office. How many folks on your team are working on these type of issues?
You know, it kind of swells. It's almost as as if like tax season almost. Right. But you know, we depend on probably about a team of 6 or 8. We could always use more. That's a pitch towards the General Assembly on resources. But number 2, we also employ a lot of interns. And so if there are any interns out there locally at any of the universities here in the Richmond region or across the state, if you're looking for an opportunity during the summertime and you are maybe a criminal justice major, it's a great opportunity to come and, I would say, get your feet wet and actually participate in a very, very rewarding process.
Right. Well, it's great for college kids to know right now, too.
That's
that this,
exactly right. We're winding down once again, right? And here's the thing. I was a fellow years and years ago, maybe about 10 years ago for Mark Warner in 2004. And I kind of pinch myself every day that, 10 years later, I get to be the Secretary of the Commonwealth. It's very, very, very rewarding. And this issue right here, the restoration of one's civil rights, makes it very rewarding.
There's another important council that falls under your purview, and that is the Council on Women.
That's right.
And so why don't you talk a little bit about this? And this is, to me, a very fascinating topic and a really exciting group.
You know, the Council of Women is made up of a group of ladies from all walks of life and different political parties and different parts of the Commonwealth who come together and are huge advocates for women of all ages. And recently, we made Catherine Waddell, a former delegate, independent Republican, who was a delegate, who now works in the office of the Secretary of the Commonwealth, one of our leads on the Council on Women. And in that time, we've created a subcommittee on women's health care. The governor asked for the creation of that committee, and they've been working diligently on some recommendations moving forward for this administration. But also they've been focused on STEM as well. We want to get more and more young ladies involved in STEM education, and because we know the lack of women in science, technology, and engineering and math, and I think we're making an impact, I think, and hopefully we can take that message to other parts of the Commonwealth as well.
Right. I know STEM is a really exciting area and really another emphasis on what the administration would like to see young women engaging in these topics.
That's right.
I know they're even offering a scholarship.
That's right.
For STEM. When you talk a little bit about.
Yeah, we're offering a scholarship. In last year as well, we got a lot of participants in the scholarship contest last year. We have a deadline this year, March 25th, I believe. And last year we had Capital One and other great private sector businesses contribute to the scholarship. It is wonderful to go down to the Science Museum of Virginia and see so many young women taking to science and technology and math at such a young age. I'll admit, I was a liberal arts major in college. I didn't take too well to science and technology, but it's good to see so many young women get involved really, really, really early.
And Dr. Anna Healy is one of the leaders in that area.
That's exactly right. I believe Megan Healy.
Oh, excuse me.
Megan Healy.
Megan Healy. Her twin sister.
Yeah, her twin sister Anna Healy James works in our office as well. And I'll also recognize Secretary Holton and also Secretary Jackson. They've done a great job as well in promoting the STEM across the Commonwealth.
Right. One thing you said kind of interested me in that you said with the councilwoman, it's bipartisan.
It's bipartisan.
It is Republican, Democrat, Independent, and I have that sense that with this administration there is that sense of bipartisanship for appointments to these commissions and these advisory boards. And why don't you talk a little bit about the importance of a bipartisan approach to that?
I think we first set that tone last year, Ray, when we, I think, appointed a great cabinet for the governor. a cabinet that was made of both Republicans, Democrats, and also independents as well. And it's the same tone, I think, that we want to set with board appointments as well. We want people from all walks of life, people who are Republicans and Democrats, people who are very, very talented, bright, and who can be contributing members to this administration. To us, it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. It's whether or not you can contribute to a new Virginia economy. And that's why we've always sought to find common ground. And I think this year you've seen in the General Assembly session a calmer approach to getting things done. I think we found common ground as we sought out in last year's General Assembly session. And I think you'll see a lot of product from this year's General Assembly session that shows that we're all about finding that common ground.
Great, that's great. So to talk a little bit more about the policy boards that you have, and some of those key issues, especially this legislative session that you may have been,
yeah, let's talk. There are one board that actually comes to mind the most, I think, that has been involved in, I think, economic development and helping us actually build that new Virginia economy is the Commonwealth Transportation Board. There are a lot of issues that go through the Commonwealth Transportation Board that actually have affected what we've done on a day-to-day basis here in the Commonwealth. Particularly, you saw the US 460 drama, you can say, right. But they've also helped rectify that and put new alternatives to the 460 plan of the previous administration to bear. Also, the Board of Health has played a major role in rolling back some of what we saw as onerous regulations of women's health clinics here in the Commonwealth. They've played a major role. The Board of Visitors obviously will always play a major role. There are some that are in the news a whole lot more than others.
Right.
But obviously in this new Virginia economy with the loss of dollars for sequestration, we have not been able to fund all our priorities the way we wanted to. But we're looking for some of our boards to actually make those tougher decisions and be more creative about making those decisions. And I think you can see in places like at William & Mary and at UVA, they've done things that will actually allow more students, middle-class students, who are squeezed right there to actually attend a four-year university. And I think that's kind of what we want from all our boards and commissions, that creativity, that willingness to innovate and actually provide more and more alternatives to our current situation. That's, I think, how you build a new Virginia economy.
And sequestration is really having a major impact on the Commonwealth right now.
Oh yes, if you live in Northern Virginia or if you live in Hampton Roads, you're feeling the effects of sequestration on a daily basis. This year, we've seen some increases in revenue in terms of the economy is looking a little bit better than it was a couple years ago, and that's promising. However, we still have to be good fiscal managers of our current budget. And I think the current budget plan that the Senate and the House have agreed upon, and with the governor's help, will be something I think will be a format that we can use for the coming year.
All right. And how about in Southwest Virginia? There's a lot of focus. I know that's an area of the Commonwealth that's challenged right now, and it doesn't have sequestration issues so much, but it has its other issues going on down there.
And the one thing I have heard from traveling the Commonwealth with the governor for years now is that, you don't want to be a part of a region where the chief export are your children. And there are a ton of good children who end up going to college and other places here in the Commonwealth, and we want to give them that opportunity, but they don't stay in Southwest Virginia because of the lack of jobs. And I think this governor has made it his top priority, and that's why he's found $5.6 billion in investment this year for the economy, and has done over 301 job announcements. I mean, this has been a focus of his, and people say, what's been the governor's focus? His focus has been job creation, and I think you can find those examples in Southwest Virginia and Southside Virginia and throughout the Crescent.
All right. Now, I do know you do have one passion, and that's James Madison University. Yes. And I heard you were a recent commencement speaker as well. Is that right? I
was. I had to pinch myself a little bit to be asked back at your alma mater to give the commencement is a great honor. And I don't think I was on the stage 10 years earlier as the former student body president at JMU, and being the student speaker as well at the time on the stage. but also to come back 10 years later and actually give a speech in front of younger kids and their families is just such an honor. One of the things I spoke about is folks not ever quitting. I mean, there are a lot of obstacles that are put in front of you on a day-to-day basis. My advice to a lot of the young folks out there: don't quit, don't give up. Run through those obstacles, jump over those obstacles, and trust me, you'll be better for it at the end of the day.
Right. Well, it had to be such a really neat experience to be going back there to your grounds and being up on that stage like you said.
Oh yeah, and putting the garb on and all that. I'll admit, I never thought I would ever have that opportunity, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And I'll admit, I actually had an opportunity to speak at Norfolk State as well this past May as well. And boy, just to see that child when they receive that degree right then or there on the spot, and hear their families yell and scream, it's a great. It gives me goosebumps every time.
Right.
Every time.
We've got about 2 minutes left. If there's anything else you want to share with our audience, they'd like to know about your office.
Oh well, the people want to know all the time. The Secretary of the Commonwealth is similar to Secretary of State, but Secretary of the Commonwealth. But my office, we do a hodgepodge of things. So the thing that I think is the most rewarding is every day the people in our office deal with folks who are maybe multimillionaires who want to be on different boards and commissions here in Virginia, and those folks who are returning from doing their time from a previous conviction. It's a whole range of people we deal with every day, and I think it's rewarding that we're able to help Virginia in that way. And sometimes we just have to pinch ourselves and say it's pretty lucky and fortunate to be a part of public service.
Right. Well, you are extremely hardworking, and you're around the Capitol a lot and around the Commonwealth a lot. Making sure people are familiar with what you're doing and getting accomplished. And what's it like working with Governor McAuliffe?
Boy, he's a ball of energy. He's a machine, as I like to say. People saw the fact that the governor fell off a horse a couple of weeks back, before the holidays, and then gave a speech, the State of the Commonwealth as well, with 7 broken ribs. That is the epitome of a machine. Right. The governor is a machine, but he's like that every single day, and that's why we do the things we do.
All right. And how about with Mrs. McAuliffe? Is there any major
what a
initiative?
pleasure. Oh my gosh, her breakfast program, trying to make sure that kids don't go to school hungry every day. As a person who grew up on free and reduced lunch and who was a part of one of those breakfast programs, it's a big deal. 49% of the folks who are ineligible for free breakfast don't take advantage of it. And so the First Lady has been a champion going around the state promoting this idea that kids should go to school not hungry and be able to participate and be better students every day because they have breakfast in the morning.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Well, Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us today.
Ray, I appreciate
really
the time.
enjoyed having us.
Thank you.
So, thank you. And thank you for watching this edition of Cable Reports. Mm-hmm.